Absolutely. And it's easier than it's ever been with the internet. And like you're talking about, like going through a phone book, you don't have to do that anymore. The amount of people you can reach on Facebook, LinkedIn, all these different social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, so many ways to get your message out to the masses. And the way it works in the universe, if your book was meant for the universe, then the universe will accept your book. If it wasn't meant for the universe, then you got a really nice book for yourself. But there's no shame in spreading your message, because ultimately you wrote your book as a gift to the world. So more of the world needs to hear about your book if your book is of value. I'm an avid reader, Dave. So like me writing a book, I had so much information up here that like it was hard to like condense it, more so than like to get, it wasn't hard to get material.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the podcast for authors where you get to meet some great people writing great things. Jon's here with me today, and he's got a book called Sales Warrior, and he's going to help you attack your sales and help you through the process, and I'm excited to have him on. And on top of everything, if that's not enough for you at home, you also can check out his podcast as well, where he's going to make you laugh. So that's hard to do sometimes, and we need more of it. So, Jon, thank you so much for agreeing to come on Living the Next Chapter.
Dave, man, thanks for having me on. It's just a pleasure to, make your acquaintance and hopefully, talk to your people and inspire them.
Awesome. I've been listening to you on other podcasts as well as a guest and hearing your story and getting little bits and pieces of it. One I was listening to, you were mentioning buying another property or something near the water. And I'm like, well, my wife and I also have investments in property. So I'm like, well, we have that in common.
Nice.
So that's exciting. Tell us a little bit more about your author journey, Jon. How did all this start for you to go write a book?
Quite honestly, it came from going into at that point, he was my 19-year-old son's room. And then he had a book that he had bought on selling that was written by a gentleman who pretty much was in prison and got out recently. And then they made a motion picture movie about his life. So I won't throw any darts at him or anything, but I thought, golly, if that's what the kids are esteeming to these days, I'd much rather like I'm a professional salesperson. My son should have the ability to read my book. And I've never been, though I don't have anything against anybody being incarcerated. Don't get me wrong. This guy was incarcerated for selling like things to people that weren't real. Like, it's not like, he got caught with drugs or something. He was basically a crook to his customers. And why kids would esteem to be like somebody that's a crook to their customers blew my ever-living mind.
Yeah. I love that you identified that you have your own story to tell. I think a lot of people listening to this that are thinking about writing a book, they haven't even really come to the realization that their story is important and that you have an insight to share, and your story matters just as much as all the other books on the shelf. So there's room for you to come in and share your story as well.
Absolutely. In the world, anytime anything's ever been created, it's because there was an obstacle. Like there was something going on that created like some kind of an emotional burn in somebody, and that emotional burn turned into creativity. Well, conceptually, the idea of a sales warrior is somebody who's armed with the mental capacity to handle a lot of rejection. Because I think the biggest obstacle to success in sales is managing yourself mentally and daily through the ups and the downs of what we would call your sales day. Because you can't have a good sales year if you don't have good sales days. So it all goes hand in hand. Mm-hmm. You can't have a good sales month if you don't have good sales presentations. So, and it all happens like in your head before it ever happens with your client. Like you can't outlive your self-esteem. I said outlive. I mean, you can't out-earn your self-esteem. You can outlive your self-esteem. You can't out-earn
Yeah. I like it. I like it. I think I look back to my early days as a young employee out there in the world. I tried sales for a little while. And one of the things I did was for some reason, I signed up for this thing and my heart wasn't in it, first of all. So there's a problem right there. Let's just kind of pause there for a second. I was doing it because I needed something to do and my heart wasn't in it. So I didn't invest a lot of my effort into this. So keep that in context. But it was selling like a hotel package to businesses when they would have meetings, and there was like a sauna and a gym, and they had meeting spaces, and they put us in this hotel room converted into a call center, basically, and we were calling local businesses in the day out of the phone book back in those days, and we just picking them off, right, one at a time, calling them, doing our spiel. On the wall are all these motivational signs to keep you motivated to sell. You have a bell that you ring if you made a sale. It was like this whole thing, right? And I remember going through, they gave you a script and you were not allowed to go off the script. You had to, and if they said one thing, you followed the script told you what to do next. And it was really robotic, everybody was saying the same words in the same room. And I remember getting on the call with a business and I start into my script. And my manager's standing behind me. He can hear what I'm doing. We're all there in the same room. I start into my script, and the guy on the other end of the phone, the business owner, goes, wait a minute. I'm supposed to keep reading, right? My script, and my manager's right here behind me. I'm supposed to keep reading, John. I'm supposed to keep going with the script. The person on the other end goes, okay, listen. If you can sell me what you're selling me without reading that script in front of me, I'll buy it right now. So I look behind me at my manager who's going, no, follow the script. Follow the script is proven. And I'm like, so I took my clipboard with my script and I put it down on the table and I just started talking to the person like a person. And he's like, okay, now you're talking to me. You're not talking at me. And I'll buy it. I stood up with my sale in my hand. I went up, rang the bell, put it in the file folder. My manager's like, never do that again.
Oh, wow.
And in that moment, I was so confused because I gave the result of selling the product, but my manager wanted me to follow a certain way of doing it. Like it was the only way. And I walked out of there going, well, if I can't be me as a salesperson, then I don't fit in this specific example of sales. In that format and in that environment. So I need to go somewhere and do it somewhere else. So if you were my manager in that moment, you understanding sales, what is the power of having that script? What is the power of just going through and trying to sell somebody on a script compared to being able to set it aside and talk to the person as a person? How would you, as a salesperson, ran that kind of situation?
Oh, I would just adapt and overcome. Like if the guy says, don't go over the script, I'm off the script in a heartbeat. Like I'm always going to be like, dance with the one who wants to dance with you, like think about dating. So like if you're reading a script to some girl that you had at dinner or whatever, and it wasn't going over well, you would have to change or the date would end.
Right. I'm just curious as to why that script is so powerful, why it's proven. All these things they tell you, it's proven script. We have everything. We anticipate a no and how to turn that no into a yes. They had everything written out for me. I didn't have to acknowledge the person on the phone. I know exactly what they're going to say. And I'm like, okay, then if they say this, then say this. I could just follow the script. And I'm like, I felt so disconnected from them.
Well, I think what happened was the script was good at the beginning and that guy, you got his attention and he was interested. Like he might like here's the thing, when you're in the process of selling a product or a service, you have no idea how you're catching that individual. You have no idea like what that individual's history is. he could have had a clipboard sitting there thinking about, I need to set up some hotel situations for my business. And you just playing the numbers game, hit him perfectly. And so, like, I've been that way before, like, I'm ready to buy. And so, like, now's not the time to oversell me. Like, I bought from people that are bad in sales just because I knew I wanted it. Like, okay. Yeah. Yeah. How do I get that? I'm looking more of like, do you want a credit card? Like, do you bill me for it?
Yeah.
So, but that's the thing. I mean, in sales, you got to be a chameleon. You got to have energy, and if she wants you to dip her, you got to dip her. If she wants you to spin her, you got to spin her. And it's dancing, and it's more like a tennis game than it is a. It's not like golf. It's not like you're the only one. Yeah. There's another person there, and that other person needs to be heard. And that's what I teach is like, I call it my play system of sales. And so the P for play stands for prospect and personalize. The L stands for listen and relate. The A stands for align and connect. And the Y stands for yes. The yeses, and you go for minor yeses. Like a lot of salespeople who aren't properly trained, they go for more of a yes or no type of scenario. It's more of a binary. It's either black or it's white, versus, or it's either a 0 or it's a 1, versus shades of gray. Mm-hmm. Like, right. How does this resonate with you? And then let them tell you the objections. Well, I mean, it sounds good. I just don't know if we can afford it. Well, now you got an objection over it. So if you can help them, show them how to afford it, at least they want it. Whereas, like most people, they're going to they're also defensive. And so they're going to say no. Unless you do a minor yes. How does this resonate with you? Oh, well, he hasn't asked me to buy it. He's really just asking me my opinion of it, which is a much softer way to go about creating business.
So tell me more about who Sales Warrior was written for. Did you have somebody in mind who would be a target audience?
Absolutely. The up-and-coming salesperson who really wants to be great in their craft. And somebody who really has a monetary goal. And that monetary goal could be tied to a lot of emotional goals. They want to be able to do this for their family, want to do that for their family. The list of emotional goals could go on and on and on. But all those emotional goals are ultimately going to be tied to a monetary goal. Because all the things they want to do that we feel we would like to have end up being monetary in nature. So it was written for kind of the struggling salesperson, or the salesperson that maybe isn't struggling but wants to be great in their craft. It's also for the burned out salesperson. It's for the salesperson that's been doing their craft a really long time and looking for new ideas. And that's kind of me. Like, one of the reasons why I'm such a fan of creating something to inspire is because I'm always looking for ways to get inspired. Like, I don't wake up immediately inspired to do my work. It's a process of getting inspired. And I find all kinds of things, Dave, that get me inspired to do my craft and to do my work and to inspire my folks. And sometimes they're things that are going on in the world that have nothing at all to do with what I do for a living. I mean, I can give you a good example. High school graduations are going on in the U.S. right now. Are they going on in Canada right now? Okay, so your school year sounds like it almost aligns with our school year. Okay,
Right.
So we're in Texas. Texas is big, and we're in a huge high school in Texas, and they're just going through the laundry list, and they're just giving diploma after diploma after diploma. This was a few years ago when my son was graduating from high school, and then everything just stops. All this monotonous Bob Smith, Julie Cart, blah, 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 all these people coming through getting their diplomas, and everything's just walking through. The whole place just stops, and you see this little girl who has braces on her arms and can't really walk. She's got braces on her arms like crutches, and then she's got braces on her legs. Goes up the stairs leading up to the stage to walk across, and it probably took from the minute the silence hit the auditorium to the point at which she got her diploma. It probably took 2.5 minutes, and it was the most inspirational 2.5 minutes of my life because I said to myself, she could have just sat in her chair and they could have just brought her a diploma, but that's not how she wanted to be. And as I'm telling you this, man, it's like giving me chills down my backside. Just, I just used that when I went into work that day, and I started working with people and calling people and whatever. And I just thought, man, Jon, you don't have an excuse. You got 2 legs at work. You got 2 feet at work. You got 2 arms at work. Time to get to work.
Yeah.
And that's, man, and that's what jazzes me about being able to write a book and do a professional course is like, I'm here to inspire people. I really think God put me on this earth to inspire people. I'm also like a huge collector of inspirational stories from every walk of life. Like, I'm not just limited to one area business. I get inspiration from everywhere, and sometimes it's on a day-to-day basis. I just saw a duck the other day, and the duck was like flying into the creek, and as it was landing, the duck let out its little flipper legs, like right at the point that it was going to hit, and then it immediately landed perfectly in the water. And I just thought, maybe that's all instinct or whatever, but I just thought how cool that was. Like, you think about in life and in business how preparation is everything, and if you're going to land properly, you better get ready for the landing. And watching that duck just come down, like that duck's coming out of the sky. Like most of us, none of us, many people are not scared to fly. People are scared to crash. Let's be honest. People are not scared to fly. People that say they're scared of heights, they're not scared of heights. They're scared of dying. And the thought of being high somewhere gives them the feeling that they're close to death. Like, I'm petrified of heights, but in reality, I'm petrified of dying. Like, I'm petrified of falling and dying from being on a height. The height itself isn't scary. The thought that I could die from that height is scary, because if you think about people that do zip lining. So once you get comfortable with the equipment to zip line, you're no longer afraid of heights, and you're no longer afraid of dying, because just like when you get in an airplane and you get comfortable in your seat, you get comfortable with the rocking back and forth and the acceleration and once you get comfortable with that whole process, you don't associate getting in that airplane with dying. Just like I don't associate when I'm getting all set up on my zip line equipment and I'm up on my zip line and they might have me 300 feet in the air. I don't think I'm going to die. Why? Because I have experience of doing it and not dying.
Right.
So inspiration can come from everywhere. I just think it's so important that we be inspired. I was telling you, like, coming on this show, that I've been listening to Bob Proctor. And if he talks about that before you have it, you got to see it. And that's kind of how I was with my book.
Mm-hmm.
Like as I was in my son's bedroom looking at a book that somebody else had written, I thought to myself, there's no reason why I can't have a book right next to that guy's book. Or more importantly, in the middle of the night, I could take that book and get rid of it for my son, which would probably be a justice for the whole, for him and for me and for our family, because there's things that are probably taught in that book that we don't agree with, and we didn't raise him to have those ideas. True. I'm not trying to be big brother, but I just thought, if you want your kids to have ideas about business and sales, I think you'd much rather have them coming from you than somebody else.
Yeah, and there's going to be someone else outside of your family that's also looking for the book that you can write. And you can bring that perspective to them.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. So that's kind of like, I got that burn. We were talking about the burn to create. The burn to create came out of that pain, the pain of going in there and seeing my son with what I thought was a limitation. Like, he felt like there was a motion picture movie out on it. It must be valid. But he wasn't old enough or wise enough to realize that the people that we listen to and follow have to have a good moral compass. And that's as different. Like, I have a good moral compass. And that's what I wanted my son to have. There's no reason why you can't learn to sell from somebody who has a good moral compass. And again, I'm not speaking poorly of people that have been in jail. That wasn't the point. The point was that this individual was in jail because he defrauded people in what he was trying to teach in his book. And that was my bigger issue. And that's the burn.
So as So when I talk to authors, John, a lot of them they're published their book and they've had all this hand holding all the way through the process, editors, all these people, coaches, getting them to the point of producing their book, putting it out into the world. And then they kind of feel like they're on their own to go and sell their book. And I talk to a lot of authors who don't claim to have any background in sales, but they have this book that they love. They have this message they want to share. But the idea of selling it and, promoting it and being salesy and all that, they sometimes think of the 1970s used car salesman who's trying to sell you the car that no one wants to buy, and they're like, I don't want to come off like that type of salesperson. But I say to them, like, are you proud of what you've done? Like, are you proud of your book and the story you told and, the information in there? Is it equivalent to a bucket of rust, terrible car that nobody wants, that you're forced to buy or tricked into buying? I'm like, your book is probably got a lot of value in it. Are you proud of it? Oh, yeah, I'm definitely proud of my book. Well, then it's not junk. Right? You're not selling junk. You're not trying to convince somebody to buy something they don't want. You're convincing somebody of something that's available to them that they don't know they need. Back to my point to that guy calling him up, and he's like, stop. I'll buy it if you stop. Get off the script. I just think as authors, we need we need tools to sell our book without feeling like we're interrupting someone's day, inconveniencing them. We're proud of what we wrote. Could you, John, talk to the authors as a fellow author? Talk to them and help them understand why it's important to be promoting your book, how to do it the right way. I'm sure there's so many things you can teach us.
Well,
can you
certainly.
Give us some insight?
So a website's important. And if you don't have a website, a Facebook page just for your book is important. And getting yourself out there, because it's fun to write a book, but it's also a blast to come on podcasts and talk about what you wrote, and it's like a work in progress. So you should be proud of what you did, because there's going to be a lot of people, that you meet during your lifetime, and if you get up a conversation about authorship, most people have never written a book. So just the fact that you wrote a book, you should be very proud of. But anytime you have a gift, you shouldn't think of selling your book as a disservice. You're giving away a part of yourself to others and evidently it has value, so they have to pay for it. Anything of value has a cost. There's no such thing as a free lunch, and that goes with all across the board, all across the universe. So you should feel proud that you did something like, I don't know percentage wise how many people are actual authors in the United States, but I imagine it's a pretty low percentage. Like if you looked at, like I'll look at my high school class, and I didn't have a very big high school class. I graduated with 69 other people. And I believe 2 of us are authors out of 69 people. So the
Wow.
percentage of people that write books is very low. As far as the promotion, being on podcasts, good. Being in different Facebook groups with other authors is good, and using your own social media to promote the book is good. If your book's actually, like my book's completely digital, but if your book is actually a hard copy, you could do shows at a library. I mean, there's so many different options to get your ideas out there, depending upon what your book's about, that kind of thing. I just think they should be proud, and it sales get such a bad connotation to it. I kind of started out with a bad connotation, talking about a guy being in prison for defrauding people.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is, we cannot have in the United States a growing gross domestic product or Canada without having sales. And most sales is somehow, some way tied to a salesperson. Like I can give us a quick appreciation, and I do this in my work, a quick appreciation of sales. So you and I are on video right now. This will be all on audio, but you could see I'm holding up a water bottle. And this water bottle initially was a sparkling ice peach nectarine, 0 sugar with vitamins and antioxidants. Now it's just a water bottle that I'm drinking water out of. The key is, though, that there was a guy or a gal that works for this company, and they called on 7-Eleven or they called on Walmart. Somebody called on somebody to get this product in my hand right now. And that person that did that got a commission. And that created gross domestic product for that business, which added to GDP for both the United States and if it's sold in Canada. Have you ever seen this sparkling ice?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
then they were successful getting it to Canada as well. So it all started with first a guy had to like picture the whole idea of this and everything, but then he had to hire sales personnel, and sales personnel had to get the distribution going. And otherwise, I couldn't experience this. This Samsung cell phone that I'm recording on right now, somebody had to sell that to whoever I bought it from before I could ever get it.
Yeah, it
the
touches
couch
everything.
I'm sitting on right now, the manufacturer of this couch has salespeople that sold it to the retailer that I bought this couch from.
Yeah. And there was advertisement to come, so you knew the couch was there. Advertisement for the business that
everything was involved, marketing. And in fact, the day I bought this couch, a salesperson sold it to me. Like they had to take me into their furniture store. That was a big furniture store. I had to explain to them what I was looking for, and they had to like show me all different kinds of couches, almost like real estate, because my butt is going to be on this real estate, day after day after day. And so they had to I had to make sure that this real estate was going to work for me, location. And ultimately it works great for me. It's a high quality couch. I love it. But it all started with some sales personnel who had to make a scary meeting with the big retailer and show them this is what we have, and we would like to get it into your store. It all started that way. Like Apple Computer started with Steve Jobs going to these little itty bitty. Do you know this story? It's a great story. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like he had to go to all these little itty bitty computer stores, and all they sold at that point when Apple Computer first started was a circuit board. That's all it was. They didn't have a monitor. They didn't have a keyboard. All that came later. Apple Computer was founded off of just making circuit boards with the DOS operating system that they could put into their own computer.
Yeah.
That was Apple Computer. It is
amazing.
Yeah. Just the fact they did it out of Steve Jobs' garage with a good friend of him, Steve Wozniak. And then they hired some guy that knew how to solder in the stuff. And then Steve had to go and sell 50, 60, 100 of those. You know, another great example of what kind of cell phone do you use, Dave?
I have a Google Pixel.
Okay, so you have a Google Pixel. Well, something you might or might not know, but both your Google Pixel and my cell phone, which is a Samsung Galaxy, both have Gorilla Glass. Have you heard the term Gorilla Glass before? Okay.
Yeah.
So Gorilla Glass wasn't even into existence until Steve Jobs met with some glass company and convinced them they needed to take a portion of their company and make Gorilla Glass, because Steve didn't want to ship his first iPhones with inferior glass that could immediately break if you dropped it. So Gorilla Glass is considered to be much stronger than normal glass. And that all happened with Steve Jobs having to sell somebody at their company on switching gears and creating something that they didn't even know they were going to have demand. Like they had to step out in faith to do that. But that all started with Steve Jobs selling the idea to him. And now their company has exploded because they make Gorilla Glass for Samsung. They make for your Google Pixel. They also make it for Apple.
Yeah. See, it all came from that. And this, I guess, for an author that's thinking about, well, John, I don't want to be salesy. You're surrounded by sales everywhere you go. You're surrounded by salesmen and women out there doing all the things that you're going to need to do for your book. And it's common. And if without them, you wouldn't be sitting on that couch. We wouldn't be on this call right now if somebody didn't do their part in the sales funnel, in the process. So if you're thinking you're nervous about selling your book or selling your idea or getting out in front of people, just remember there's a ton of people who do this every day, and they probably struggle too in the beginning to get out there and share their message. But here we are seeing the fruits of their labor. So get out and sell your book. Tell people about it. Don't be shy. Get out there and share your book so more people will know about it.
And it's easier than it's ever been with the internet. And like you're talking about, like going through a phone book, you don't have to do that anymore. The amount of people you can reach on Facebook, LinkedIn, all these different social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, so many ways to get your message out to the masses. And the way it works in the universe, if your book was meant for the universe, then the universe will accept your book. If it wasn't meant for the universe, then you got a really nice book for yourself. But there's no shame in spreading your message, because ultimately you wrote your book as a gift to the world. So more of the world needs to hear about your book if your book is of value. I'm an avid reader, Dave. So like me writing a book, I had so much information up here that it was hard to condense it, more so than to get, it wasn't hard to get material.
Yeah. If we go back to the phone book example, for those that don't know what a phone book is,
that's funny.
Younger than the two of us. It's a book you used to get every year or whenever, and there would be your phone number and your address would be in there and your name, and people could find you. Now, when people get their books put on Amazon, for example, they think, well, it's on Amazon, so I should be a success now. Everyone's going to find it because it's on Amazon. When I had phone books, my name was in the phone book, but that doesn't mean everybody knows who I am. I'm just another name in a list of names, sorted alphabetically in a book.
Yeah.
With my phone number. You still have to go find me, or I have to tell you about me, but you'll never know me, even though my name is in the book. My book is on Amazon. My name is in the phone book. Still, you still got to get out and tell people who you are, because no one's going to go through line by line and try to figure out who's who. You still have to get out there and promote what you do, right? And that's why we had the yellow pages, which were different than the white pages. And the yellow pages would be where you advertise and get your business out there, right? So I just think as authors, we have this misconception possibly that you write the book, you put it on a website, and money's going to fall from the heavens. Well, you still got to talk about it. You still got to sell. And that's why I love talking to you around sales is I just want people to be more accustomed to the idea that selling is not bad. Selling is good. And without selling, nothing happens. Everything grinds to a halt. So get out there, share your book, tell people your story, get on podcasts, get a website, get out there in front of people and tell people you wrote something amazing and you saw a need, you filled the need. Now tell everybody about it. Celebrate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't be afraid to spread your message and to realize marketing and getting your message out. Most people believe, and I'm sure you kind of know this too, Dave, that most people believe that success comes from almost like an accident. They feel like success is there was this amazing spark and it just lit all this stuff on fire, and then the fire got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now this person is a worldwide success. In reality, if you think about the most successful people, because I have studied success over 34 years of being in sales, and I've studied success in multiple walks of life, and I can tell you success is not an accident. That's actually one of the chapters in my book and in my course is success is not an accident. And one of the best examples that I can give you two from the music world. One would be the Beatles. The Beatles are such a great story because you've got these, for the most part, pretty poor people, except for maybe John Lennon. And in many ways, he was lower middle class in England. He was not, his aunt had a nice house that in order to make ends meet, she had to have boarders. So he wouldn't be considered wealthy, but compared to his comrades living in small flats in Liverpool, he was considered to be wealthier. And but the key is that they came across, or Brian Epstein actually came across them, and he saw something bigger than what they were. And when he convinced George Martin of it, the Beatles sold a lot of records. Do you know who the Beatles sold a lot of records to initially? Brian Epstein.
No.
Brian Epstein bought a ton of Beatles records, and that was one of the keys to their success. So Brian Epstein bought a ton of Beatles records, and back then it was mainly 45s and singles, right? So they put out Love Me Do.
Yeah.
And so Brian's I got to get Love Me Do to be in the top 10. How do I do that? Well, he researched how many 45s needed to be sold to get to the top 10 at that point in time. And what he did was he took his own money and he bought them because he had a furniture store, a furniture/record store. Wow. He bought them, and you know what he did? He stored them. Why did he store them? He stored them so nobody else could buy them. Now they're out of circulation. Now, if they can get on a radio show, play Love Me Do, hey, you guys are a top 10. Yeah. Can I get that 45 to play on our radio station? Can I get that 45 to play on my radio station? Can I get that 40? You're a top 10. You guys are something special. I'd never even heard of you guys. But evidently you play a lot downtown in the Cavern Club. And he just handed out 45 after 45. And you know why they played the 45? Because he bought significance. it was significant to be in the top 10. It's significant to be an author. But the thing is when you're in a top 10, now you can be a number one, because all you got to do is climb the charts. And everybody listening that's an author can be in the top 10. You just now got to climb the charts. And but that's an example of, like, success is not an accident. Success is well thought out, and it is it's a process. And the Beatles weren't the only bands that Brian Epstein took into the top 10 and got number one hits. It became a whole kind of music at the time called Mercy Beat music, and it was that Mercy Beat sound that Brian Epstein and George Martin were famous for. So you got the combination of Brian's guerrilla marketing of buying up all the records, and you got George Martin's amazing production, because he was a musician and a singer himself. And then you also got Brian Epstein's ability to get to the radio stations, just like everybody needs to get their 45, their book, to podcasts and to websites and conventions and places where they could sell their book, because it's not going to sell itself.
Amazing. No. Yeah. I love it. Okay, John, you've been so kind with your time. Tell us about your website, and then I have one more question before we jump off here, but tell everybody where we go to find out more.
So easy to find out about me, and so easy to get what I teach. So I don't make it expensive. What I teach is $29.95. It's over 30 hours of instruction, video, audio, and workbooks for me.
Wow.
And each and every year I make it bigger and better. So the edition you can get right now, when I add more to it in the coming year, you'll get that at no cost. With that, you'll also get my book that's on Amazon for $9.99. You'll get my book for free. And once you're in the family, then we'll have your email address. You'll get monthly inspiration from me. So how do you get all that? It's saleswarriorinspire.com, just right off my website. My podcast is Jon Sales Warrior. So that's how you get to see and listen to my comedy podcasts. And another good way to connect with me is out on LinkedIn. And my LinkedIn is just Jon, Jon, Sales Warrior, all one word. Lots to get from me, because you've known me a little while, Dave. I'm constantly in learning mode, and I don't like to learn new stuff to keep it, myself. I like to give it away and get it back out into the universe. So when I learn interesting, inspirational stuff, it's my job. I was put on this earth to give it back to the universe and let other people have it and use it.
I love it. So back to your example of the duck coming in for a landing. We're going to come in for a landing with our podcast. We're going to land this really nicely, really gracefully into the creek there. I love it. The one thing I try to encourage people is you do not have because you do not ask. And you need to make the ask, right? You need to ask people to come to the website, buy the book. You need to do that. Again, I would love to get your thoughts from an author's perspective. How do we land the sale when we talk about promoting our book? Do you have a tip for us on how to land the sale as we meet with people to be a speaker or talk about our book or be on a podcast? How do we land the sale? Just like that duck coming in.
Great question.
Wow. How do we land the
price
sale?
It right. So you got to understand your market. So like I did a lot of research in my market to figure out like who was doing what and understand like what a good price point would be for my book. So it's got to be priced so people feel like they can afford it. And then two, you got to have like an irresistible offer with a hook. So like you heard my irresistible offer with a hook, like my gift's the gift that keeps on giving. How can you say no to somebody that tells you that what you get today is going to be better a year from now and it won't cost you any more? I mean, nobody's saying that, out there. So all that plays a role in getting the sale. If you're doing it face to face, if your book solves some kind of problem, well, then you want to uncover whatever that problem might be. If your book gives inspiration, maybe you want to find out like what that person's been going through, that they could use some inspiration. You know, that's how I do my face-to-face sales, and that's how I do my corporate sales is by really like ferreting out and finding out what somebody's going through, and not even mentioning what I do or what I can offer until I really know, is there a need for what I have? And then you feel confident and calm about mentioning what you have, especially when there's a need. And I'm sure if folks wrote a book, there's people out there that need your book. You just need to get yourself out there, and the more you get yourself out there, the less scary it's going to be. And I don't know if we recorded some of this in the beginning. I don't know if we were already pressing play when I was talking about, like, you know, people aren't afraid of flying; they're afraid of dying from falling, you know, from an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as soon as you associate that you're not gonna die, that it's just a part of the journey. Like, in order to get somewhere from where you are right now, significant, you got to get on that airplane, and you got to get comfortable with that airplane. In order to sell your book, think of the sales process as your airplane. You're not going to die from trying to sell your book. You got to get comfortable with sitting in that seat and being a salesperson, and your message of what your book offers, because your book offers something. I read all the time, and even books that are poorly written give me good inspiration. I realize they're poorly written, and that gives me good inspiration of how to write a better book, because I've seen it done, you know, poorly. So now I know what not to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Awesome. Awesome, Dave.
It's great. Amazing, Jon. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I'm encouraging everyone to go to the show notes. We'll have links to Jon's website. You can find his courses, his book, podcast links. Everything is there on the website. It's a great website, Jon. I love the cover of your book as well. Well done on that. And I'm just, again, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us today on the podcast.
You know, I feel like I was born to do it. So you got to, like, do what you're passionate about, what jazzes you. Oh, can I say one little thing?
Yep. And the next,
okay,
go.
So this is just something I try to leave with people anytime I get a wonderful opportunity to speak to a new audience. Is that life is for living is a part of my life motto, and life is short. And boy, that is such good fire and burn for everybody on a day-to-day basis to do what's needed to be done, realizing that you don't have unlimited time on this earth, and it's a short life that we live, and we were put on this earth to live it, and it's so important to grasp that, and once you grasp that, it makes living life so much more enjoyable, because every day is a gift.
I love it. I love it. And the next time I see a duck land on a lake, Jon, I'm thinking of you.
Awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, I imagine you see quite a bit of that in Canada.
We have a couple ducks around here. Do. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, I'm going to think of you. I'll think of you. Thank you, Jon. That's a great illustration. Awesome. Okay, everyone, all the information, again, is in the show notes for Jon. Head over to saleswarriorinspire.com. Everything's there for you. And Jon, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. That's a big signal to all of the players, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Spotifys, that you found value in this episode of Living the Next Chapter. Just by you listening to the end, you just sent a huge bat signal out to the app saying this was a great podcast, a great conversation. So you listening to this point, you've done your job. I have one more ask of you. If you know anyone that would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? Would you just get on, send them a message, send them the episode, tell them about this episode, tell them to go livinginthenextchapter.com to get all the information about the podcast. Can you do that for me? Because the more people that hear this message, this episode, the better. I want to support these amazing authors, and I know you do as well. So sharing this episode really helps, and I appreciate you. See you on the next episode, and thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter.